Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my 15 most anticipated summer thriller releases. These are all thrillers that are coming out May 2023 or later. I wasn't able to find as many releasing in August yet since it's pretty early in the year still. But I'm just going to go ahead and go through these 15 thrillers and give you some quick ideas of the general plot line and some tropes that they might have based on the summaries available right now. And let's go and hop into our first one. Also, if I'm a little stuffy, I apologize. My allergies are pretty bad. Our first thriller is going to be Hurricane Blonde. This is written by Halley, Sutton, and it's going to be coming out on August 8th, 2023. So our main character in this, her name is Salma, and she's a former child starlet, and something basically happens. She didn't stay in Hollywood, and she's now an adult, fast forward many years later, and what she does for a living is she basically takes tourists on tours throughout Hollywood and shows them different areas where actors and actresses have met untimely demises. So kind of a morbid Hollywood history basically. And she knows better than anybody else that an untimely death is the quickest way to stardom in Hollywood, because her own sister in the 90s died very young and is the one who's dubbed the Hurricane Blonde, and the case was never solved. So she has this cold case that's been looming over her, haunting her, and unfortunately one day she's leading the tour and she stumbles on the spot where her sister actually died, and she finds a body mid-tour, and the person there who is murdered today, in modern times, looks a lot like her sister, and the murder and the scene and everything also echoes her sister's death as well. And of course they call the police and everything, and the police don't really think there's any foul play involved, but Salma herself is not convinced of this at all, because it's just too coincidental that this would happen in the exact same place, same kind of premise, the same looking kind of person, a very similar build and look to her sister. So she's going to try to solve her sister's cold case and this modern day woman's murder who kind of connects to her past. So this one sounded really interesting to me. I love the title of the thriller, Hurricane Blonde. That just really caught my attention, and I'm very excited for this. This one sounds super interesting. I love a good cold case thriller or mystery. Next we have A Likeable Woman. This is written by Cobb, and this will be coming out on July 11. I am so excited for this. This has so many tropes I love. Basically our main character in this is Kira, and she fled her home life in this affluent Texas city after her mother's disappearance. So she never turned back. She fled, she went out, and she's been living her adult life. But decades later she's getting called back to this town because one of her frenemies is having a vow renewal, so she's kind of obligated to go, I guess. And she's also getting these texts from her grandmother urging her to come back, saying that she's found something that makes her mother's death or disappearance look like it could be there's something suspicious. There could be foul play involved. So Kira goes back home and she discovers that her grandmother has found a memoir that her mother was working on before her death. And in the memoir is different details about her life and different clues and things. And so Kira is trying to solve her mother's disappearance, basically. Again, I love the cold case. I love, this sounds so good. I love too when you have a character who finds old writing, memoirs, letters, and that's the primary clue. I love that trope. I think it's so interesting to go back and read through characters' lives and stuff that they've documented. I'm so excited. This one just sounds so interesting. Next we have She Started It, a novel by Sian, Gilbert. This will be coming out on June 13th, 2023, and it's recommended for fans of Lucy Foley and Leanne Moriarty. This one sounds so incredibly exciting. Basically, this is a debut thriller, and it's described as being a hot summer twisty thriller, perfect for this time of year. And basically we have 4 friends, and they have been friends for a long time, and they are kind of confused when they get this invitation from someone in their friend group who's kind of distant. They're not someone that was very close to them, maybe more an acquaintance really, and her name is Poppy, and she invites them to her bachelorette party in the Bahamas, and it's all expenses paid, with the flight and everything. And the women check out her Instagram, and she's living this opulent lifestyle, and they're like, well, why not? If she wants to celebrate with us and she wants to take us to the Bahamas, that sounds good to me, right? Well, they go, and everything is as decadent and luxurious as they expect. However, they soon realize that they are cut off from civilization. There's no other guests besides them, and they're very remote. There's no cell connection or anything like that, and they think Poppy has ulterior motives. They also have their own dark secrets hidden, and they're kind of basically pitted against each other in some way where their secrets are coming out. Poppy's like has some ulterior motive. I'm very excited for this. This sounds highly entertaining. I love friend groups with dark secrets from like years ago. I think it's so interesting. So this one sounds absolutely interesting, and again, it is a debut thriller. Next we have a May release. It's called The Perfect Ones, a thriller. This is written by Nicole Hackett, and this will be coming out on May 2nd. This is recommended for fans of Lucy Foley and Andrea Bartz. So this one involves influencers and social media and internet fame, which I always think is a very creepy and disturbing thriller trope. It just shows how dark social media can be, basically. And this one involves like a promotional trip with influencers who are flown out to Iceland. And our main character in this, or like kind of the focal character at least, is Alabama, and she's got like a perfect life. Seemingly, you know, she's got tons of Instagram followers, she's a big time influencer, and she goes missing on the trip. So the police start to really focus in on the two people closest to her, which is her best friend Celeste and her like kind of an unwilling idol named Halley. And Halley, like Alabama, has like this perfect life, you know, she's got the perfect husband, the perfect body, she's a fitness influencer, she's got like 1 million followers, all this stuff. But behind the scenes, Alabama was the only one who really had this like suspicion around her perfect life and kind of saw through her facade. So she might have known some kind of dark secret about Halley. Celeste, on the other hand, is Alabama's best friend, but they've been drifting apart, especially because her 5-year-old has some kind of like health issues or behavioral issues they're going through, and she's struggling to cope with that and to address it, and her husband is also refusing to acknowledge that there's some kind of, you know, that the child needs some kind of help, basically. So she's been really struggling with that, and that's been causing her to drift away from Alabama. And what Celeste doesn't want to tell the police is that she also has found a kind of a interesting way to cope, and Alabama was the only one who knows about that. So again, they both kind of have secrets related to the missing influencer. I love this. I assume there'll probably be some like social media digging and like all that. I think that'll be really interesting, and this one just sounded really fun with the Iceland setting. So next we have one by Andrea Bartz, and this is called The Spare Room, a novel. This will be coming out on June 20th, 2023. Alright, so our main character in this one is Kelly, and she just started a new life in Philadelphia. She was really excited. She's supposed to be getting married. She moved in with her fiance, and everything goes awry when like the wedding is called off, and she is forced into lockdown, because I believe it takes place maybe during like 2020 or somewhere around that time, with her ex-fiance, and of course things are very awkward. The only shining light through all this is that her friend Sabrina and her have recently rekindled their friendship, and Sabrina is now a very wealthy woman. She's like a best-selling author, and she also has a husband who's a very high-powered job as well. Well, Sabrina invites Kelly to move in with her and her husband because they have a big estate. I'm assuming it's their home that's on the cover here, and they have plenty of room, and she's like, you know, move in with us. So Kelly moves in with them, and she finds herself kind of falling for both of her hosts. And one night they actually invite her to romantically engage with them, and Kelly's kind of excited about this. She's interested in this like high-powered, like luxurious, glamorous life they're living, and everything's going okay until she realizes that the last woman they invited to like live with them and stuff had disappeared. Not so good, right? So that's kind of the premise of this thriller. I think this sounds really fun, very interesting, an interesting setup, I think. I haven't actually read anything by Andrea Bartz, but I keep hearing great things, so I'm excited to read some of her work this year. I'm very excited. Next we have a popular thriller author, Riley Sager, and this one is his newest release, which will be coming out in June, and it's coming out June 20th, and it's called The Only One Left, which is kind of giving me Agatha Christie and Then There Were None vibes, just based on the cover and like the title and everything. Okay, so this one we basically have a kind of play on the, I don't know if it's like it's a kind of a legend. I don't think she was ever confirmed to be the killer, but kind of a play on the Lizzie Borden case. And basically we have two characters we're kind of following. Lenora, who at the age of 17 was accused of hanging her sister, killing her sister. The police strongly suspected Lenora, but they weren't able to prove it, and Lenora has never spoken out about the crime since, and she's continued to reside in the family's home, which is on this like cliffside and very ominous. This is described as like a gothic thriller. And fast forward decades later, and we have our second kind of primary character, Kit, who is like a in-home like health aide nurse, and Lenora is now a very is an elderly woman. She needs help just, you know, living life, and she's in her 70s, and she's actually been rendered mute by several strokes, so she communicates with Kit via like where she like taps out messages on her old typewriter, and she tells Kit through the typewriter that she wants to tell her everything regarding the case from decades ago. And Kit's very interested, of course. She wants to know what happened, so she starts to, you know, listen and see what Lenora is telling her, and she's starting to suspect that someone else might have been responsible. Around this time, she also discovers that the previous nurse who had like her position had fled in the middle of the night, which doesn't bode super well. And it's kind of interesting because it sounds like it's just the two of them, so why would you flee from, you know, a 70-year-old something woman who's confined to a wheelchair, who can't speak, who can't, you know, that doesn't seem like much of a physical threat. So definitely sounds like a very psychological thriller. We got the cold case, we got the gothic setting. I'm very excited for this. Riley Sager for me has been 2 out of 3 hits and 1 big flop, so hopefully this will be another hit. Next we have Thicker Than Water, a novel by Megan Collins, and this is going to be coming out July 11th. It involves 2 sisters-in-law. We have Julia and Sienna Larkin. So the 2 sister-in-laws are kind of the primary characters in this. We have Julia and Sienna, and they are actually sisters-in-law. They are also business partners, so they spend a lot of time together, and they both adore, you know, the brother/husband, Jason. And everything's going okay, and Jason's been working a lot of long hours at like some work project until one day his boss is found murdered with his lips sewn shut. So very brutally done. And the police are kind of looking at Jason as a suspect. Things get even worse when Jason actually gets into a car accident and he's placed into a medically induced coma, so he can't even, you know, testify or speak up for himself or say what happened or if he noticed anything. So the 2 sister-in-laws are working together to clear the brother/husband's name and to solve what actually happened before time runs out. Sounded so interesting. I love the idea of the 2 sister-in-laws coming together too. I think that's going to be a blast, like a really dynamic duo, hopefully. It sounds super fun. Next, we have one, I love the title for this. It's called What the Neighbors Saw, a novel. It's written by Melissa Adelman, and this will be coming out on June 20th, 2023. It's described as Desperate Housewives Meet the Couple Next Door. So our main characters in this are Alexis and her husband Sam. They have moved into this well-to-do DC suburb. They've bought this like Cape Cod house to like renovate and everything, and they're welcomed with open arms by their neighbors. They're very excited. They start socializing. Alexis is also pregnant with their 2nd child, and she's excited to put her past behind her. So she's got some kind of trouble in her past. Everything's going okay until one of the neighbors is discovered dead in the area, and the police start to comb the neighborhood to try to get clues and see if one of the neighbors actually did it. Alexis actually becomes close with the neighbor's widow, Blair, and as she gets closer to Blair, she starts to learn more and more about the situation that maybe led up to his death. Sounds really interesting, and the title gets me. What the neighbors saw. Like, what did they see? I want to know. Next, we have No One Needs to Know, a novel by Lindsay Cameron, and this will be coming out on May 9th, 2023. This is described as Big Little Lies meet Gossip Girl, and the unput-a-downable read as smart and witty as it is delectable. So this sounds highly entertaining with all the secrets and everything. Basically, there's this discussion forum online that's built, and it's anonymous. So all of these very like wealthy New York socialites are leaving their secrets that even their partners and like family don't know. So they're talking about secret affairs, secret bank accounts, you know, getting their kids into exclusive schools in, you know, not so ethical or illegal ways. They're sharing all their secrets, they're airing their dirty laundry online. Until the site is hacked and all these secrets are exposed. A hacktivist exposes the identity of the people on the forum, airing out all their dirty laundry to the public. And someone actually ends up dead. So everyone is trying to put together who did it. Is it Heather, somebody who's kind of an outsider in this group, wanting to like break into their world? Is it someone who is struggling with motherhood and all of the like, you know, just the emotional and physical challenges that comes with it? What is the motivation and why would someone hack into this? So this sounds super interesting. Again, kind of a creepy technology-based thriller and lots of secrets, lots of deep, dark secrets. Next we have The Good Ones by Polly Stewart. This is coming out on June 6, 2023. So this one involves a friend trying to solve her friend's disappearance. So our main character is Nicole, and when she was a child, her childhood friend disappeared, leaving behind a grieving husband and I think like a sibling or so. And there's just interesting clues. There's like a bloody handkerchief. There's just nothing really fits. Nobody knows what happened. And despite all of this trauma, the town seems to have moved on, and Nicola is just looking around and everything seems frozen in time to her, but other people are moving on and she just can't let it go. She's really obsessing over this cold case. Of course, this was, I'm sure, very traumatic for her, I would imagine. And so she decides to get a job in her hometown to start to investigate and to get closer to the people in the town and to try to put together what happened to her friend. Sounds super interesting. Again, a kind of a cold case situation, and I like, you know, the loyalty that she's kind of going after her friend and trying to find out what happened to her despite everyone else having moved on. Next, we have a release by probably my favorite thriller writer, tied with Lucy Foley, it's up there, Ruth Ware, and I'm very excited. This is her new release. It's called 0 Days, and this is coming out on June 20th, 2023. Basically, we have our two main characters, Jack and her husband Gabe, and they are like hacker, like security penetration experts. They're basically hired by businesses to hack other businesses' like security systems and like break into things basically. And one night they have an assignment that goes wrong and Jack returns to find her husband dead. And she actually goes on the run because she thinks the police are going to suspect her. Maybe, I'm not sure how the murder was done. Maybe it was done to frame her in some way, but she goes on the run, and so she's trying to solve her husband's murder and put things together. Is this like an unhappy client? Is this somebody who was unhappy that they hacked the system? I'm so excited. Ruth Ware is an excellent writer. I've never had less than like a 3.5 or 4 stars with her. She's really good, so I'm very excited for this. Next, we have one I already have on hold at my library, and this is called The Chateau by Jaclyn Goldis. This is coming out on May 23rd, 2023, and this is recommended for fans of Lucy Foley, Ruth Ware, and Lisa Jewell. And like I said, I love Lucy Foley and Ruth Ware, so this was immediately something on my radar, and just the title and the cover really gets me, so I'm very excited for this one. The setup for this is insane. Basically, we have this luxurious French chateau, and after all these years, the lady of the chateau, Seraphine, decides to allow her granddaughter and 3 of her granddaughter's friends to stay at the chateau. And basically, this is, you know, very odd. She doesn't open up the home like at all, basically, and she invites them back, and they think this is because over the years they had grown like kind of close with like trips and stuff together, and the friends are all back there at the estate, and they all have their own dark secret about something on the estate that they might want to conceal, cover up, finish something they started, something along those lines. Everything takes a turn when Seraphine is found brutally murdered, and the girls are trying to solve what exactly happened. Not only that, but an Instagram account pops up with like intimate pictures of the girls, like with their time at the chateau, just like these, you know, intimate moments between them where they're hanging out and stuff, and they're trying to figure out how the person got these photos, because that's obviously really disturbing, and the person with the photos on the Instagram account is also threatening to expose them. They are racing against the clock to solve this mystery and solve who the Instagram account is being run by, and the friends start to also turn against each other because they suspect that one of them is running the Instagram account and might have actually murdered Seraphine. Sounds fascinating. I love the setting for this. Everything about this sounds right up my alley. Next, we have The Revenge List, a novel by Hannah Mary McKinnon. This novel is being released on May 23rd, 2023, and it's highly recommended by Riley Sager, so if you're a fan of his, you might enjoy this as well. Our main character in this is Frankie Morgan, and she is emotionally stunted, as people describe her. She's very angry, she's very upset, she feels like her life is miserable, she's got like a lot of cranky neighbors, like things aren't going great for her. So she actually ends up taking this like anger management like class / group, and she starts to talk to somebody about it, and like the person, like the therapist or whoever is putting this group on, tells her, they're like, you know what, why don't you write up a list of everybody you've been angry with over the years. So Frankie does this even though she's kind of skeptical, so she writes down everyone that she's been angry with over the years, including herself. And after she makes a list, she forgets about it, and the list actually goes missing. One by one, the people on the list start to be murdered, and Frankie is freaking out because she doesn't know where the list is, she doesn't know who found it, who is, you know, doing these like revenge killings basically, and she's also on the list herself, so she is freaking out and trying to solve this mystery. Love the premise. I think this is a really interesting, unique premise, and I love the fact that Frankie's also on the list, so it really ups the stakes. Next, we have a June release called Have You Seen Her? A novel by McKenzie. This will be coming out on June 27th. Alright, our main character in this is Casey Peters, and she has a kind of dark past, some secrets she's hiding, and she is tired of living in New York. She's had a very secretive, stressful life there, so she moves back to her home in Mammoth, California. And she begins working with the search and rescue team there, which is where she used to work, and this kind of brings into focus what happened a decade ago. Like there's some kind of case that wasn't solved, maybe like a bad experience, something along those lines. And as she starts to get to know people more, she starts to meet Petal and her older wife, who live in like this trailer in the area. She starts to connect with them, and she also meets a young woman who's traveling on a road trip with her boyfriend, and meeting these people somehow connects to the decade-old past that she is like worried about coming to light. So she's starting to try to put things together. She's starting to maybe try to cover things up. I'm not exactly sure, but it sounds really interesting. I think the setting for this is just perfect for spring and summer. The last one we have is The Night It Ended by Garner, and this is coming out on June 27th. This next one has kind of like an isolation trope going on. Basically, we have our main character Madeline, and she is like a criminal psychologist, and she has been invited to go to this boarding school because of a huge event that has happened, and the girl is found barefoot in her pajamas and dead at the bottom of this icy ravine near the school. And the police are kind of thinking it's an accident, but the private investigator on the case for her mother, the mother of the girl that dies, thinks otherwise. So Madeline decides, you know what, if it was my kids, I would want someone to look closer. So she decides to go to the boarding school, so she's kind of cut off, from society. Sounds like it's a very snowy, creepy setting, which I love. And she's isolated, and it's kind of winter break when this is going on, so she's met by a very unfriendly staff who aren't happy that she's there, and 4 students who have remained there over winter break. And everyone there seems to have a piece of the puzzle about the girl's death. So excited for this. I also really love thriller characters that they're like psychologists or psychiatric, like someone with like some kind of insight into the human mind in a, trained profession, like whether they're like a cop, a psychologist, like someone who has some kind of insight deeper than the average person at least, and this sounds really interesting. Also, the cover on this is gorgeous. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I do post new book content every week on this channel, especially in the mystery and thriller genres, so if you're a fan of those, you'll really like this channel. Thank you again for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know down below, what summer thriller are you most excited for? Did I miss any that are really exciting to you? Are they on this list? Let me know down below, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!